That is the new JAECOO E5, a medium or small-ish sized SUV, which is a rival to the likes of the Ford Puma, the Jeep Avenger, maybe even the Alfa Romeo Junior, and also the Range Rover Evoque, because it's a little bit bigger than all of them, and yet it starts from less than all of them. In fact, it starts from £24,500 in the petrol form you see here, and even in the electric form, it's just over £27,000, which means it's cheaper than the entry petrol version of the Ford Puma.
The only car that undercuts it is the Renault Captur, but the JAECOO comes with more standard kit. So in this video, we're going to drive both petrol and electric cars to see whether the Puma, Captur and electric equivalents now have a serious problem on their hands, or whether JAECOO's newcomers are competitive in price only.
Now, in terms of design, firstly, if you've seen JAECOO's designs before, you'll think this looks familiar, because look at the front end. That is very mumuch like a Range Rover. It's sort of like a Discovery, perhaps. It's a fairly conventional SUV. The length is actually longer than all of the rivals I mentioned, so we'll see how that affects legroom and boot space. But look at the tail. That looks very much like a Range Rover, maybe the Evoque, or definitely the Evoque from that angle. In fact, from here, I think many people, especially if you're not familiar with the car, would confuse it with an Evoque almost always. Now, before I tell you about this JAECOO E5 spec, I want to tell you about the best way I think you can find your next vehicle, and that is to download the Cinch app. If you download the app using the QR code on screen here, well, then you can find all of the vehicles available both on site and also in Cinch stores as well. So get downloading the app and browsing. But now let's talk about this JAECOO E5 specs.
The JAECOO E5 we have here is the entry 1.6 turbocharged petrol car with a dual clutch auto gearbox with 7 speeds. But you can also get a fully electric E5 model, which we'll be testing in a mo. But first, you need to see this.
Now, the interior of this car is arguably the most impressive bit, because remember those prices I mentioned, £24,505 or £27,505 for the electric car? Well, in both versions, you get the same front interior, which means you've got a really plush setup. I mean, honestly, the materials feel soft touch, and everything you look at and engage with feels really well put together. Honestly, it has surprised me. Screen as well in the middle. It's just over 13 inches diagonally across, I believe, and it's a bit smaller than the one you see in some of the other cars of the group, but actually the interaction is the same. It's smartphone-like, it's quick. You can turn off all those annoying bings and bongs from the driver assistance features with just a swipe down and a tap of the menus. And the screen ahead is very, very slim. It's a real letterbox screen, but actually there's a lot of information. It's clear enough. Storage is great as well. You've got storage, surprisingly, especially given this is a petrol car, underneath the center console. And then you also got your USB ports. You've got a cooled wireless charging mat for your phone. You've got storage down there, cup holders, decent glove box. The seats are comfy, and the material they're made of, by the way, it's all vegan leathers, but it's all wipeable. And you even get a big panoramic sunroof, so it's nice and airy. It feels spacious, comfortable in here. And because the tech is quick to react and even quick to start up when you get in, so Apple CarPlay, for example, fires up really, really swiftly, it just feels like a very seamless, easy place to be. Honestly, I know I said it at the start, but I'll say it again. It's a nice interior.
In the back, there's more passenger legroom than you get in rivals like the Ford Puma and Renault Captur, and headroom's also generous, even for a near 6-footer. That legroom doesn't come at a cost of boot space either, because while the JAECOO lacks a hosable megabox like the Puma, and it can't quite match the Captur's overall space, it's not far off, and buyers will even get a spare wheel as standard.
Before you ask, it doesn't have a ski hatch, but you can, I mean, I'm throwing the parcel shelf crudely on there, but look, you can fold the seats down, then you do have yourself a heck of a lot of room. Now all that's left to do is to take it for a drive. So we're jumping in the petrol one first, remember.
On the road, the JAECOO E5's 1.6 turbo engine has a fair bit more muscle than rivals, with 150 horsepower and a smooth auto gearbox, making the car more effortless and more fun to drive than the pure petrol Captur. Although, without mild hybrid tech like the Puma's engine, it's not the most fuel efficient in the class. Expect to get around 40 miles per gallon if you're sensible, compared to the 45 miles per gallon you can get in the admittedly much pricier Puma. That said, the JAECOO is definitely the more comfortable car.
It's not the softest and most cushioned ride, and there's a few jiggles here, and if I go on that drain, jiggles a little bit here and there, but overall, it is a nice, tied down ride that is just okay as far as the class is concerned. What is really impressive in this car, especially given the price, is how much of the tech you get to help you drive. Now, the driving assistance features don't, like, as I said, you can switch them off, but the ones you want to leave on all the time are the cameras, because reversing in this car is so easy. Not only do you have a full 360 view, you've got the above view, and you can also see underneath the car as well as you drive over the road. So it's really useful for parking in tricky situations or driving over tricky terrain. Maybe if your driveway has some big potholes in it or something and you want to avoid them. It's very easy to do that in this car. And you've also got adaptive cruise control and a speed limiter as well. So you're certainly not lacking in terms of tech.
And that's even true if you're a serious music lover, because the sound system in this car is brilliant. Although, keep watching to see how the E5 adds to that with something I've never seen in a car before.
Right, now it's time to drive the electric version of the JAECOO E5, named the E5. See what they did there? Now, the key stats to remember are that this car has a 61 kilowatt hour battery, which gives it a claimed 248 mile range. And with over 200 horsepower from an electric motor on the front axle, it will do 0 to 62 in under 8 seconds, which we're going to test in a mo. Also, the other key thing to note is the price, of course, because at £27,505, even the electric car comes in cheaper than the petrol, albeit mild hybrid, version of the Ford Puma. So just like the petrol car, this one promises to be a right old bargain.
It looks very slightly different to the petrol car too, with the front grille being ditched for a cleaner look on the nose. Although at the back, it looks basically identical, barring a little EV badge.
Now inside, the E5 is identical, as you can see. Lovely fit and finish, same tech. The only thing you gain is the Regen adjustment in the menu. But the most impressive thing is the fact that the space in the back and the boot is supposedly identical, although supposedly is the key word here, because while, yeah, technically I've got the same knee room, same headroom, I have noticed there is a slight lip under the seat ahead of me, which means while my toes still tuck under just like they did in the petrol car, I can feel a slight ridge underneath me. So there's a minimal change despite what they say.
Most impressive is how the boot space is totally unchanged in the E5. Look, you still even have room for a spare wheel. But there's more, because if you pop the bonnet open, there's a front boot as well, with space to hide away your charge cables and more.
Talking of charge cables, when you want to plug yours in or go and use a public charger, you have to just press this down here and you will find the car's charging ports there. But because this car will charge at 80 kilowatts, it's not the quickest out there. However, because the battery's not that big, it will still do a 10 to 80% charge in about 40 minutes. Of course, most people with this car are likely to either plug it in overnight or at home, and you can charge on those plugs at 11 kilowatts. But yeah, on a fast charger, it's up to 80 kilowatts, which is good, but definitely not the best out there.
Behind the wheel, the E5 is just as easy to drive as the Petrol 5, and it even deals with our bumpy roads just as well. It's not sporty in the bends, but it is sure-footed, with plenty of grip.
And one thing's for sure, it's flipping quick. I mean, to accelerate, naturally the electric reaction is very fast, and I've only got it in normal mode at the moment. If I click it across to sport, yeah, it really gets up and goes.
So much so, in fact, that our race logic timed it to 60 miles per hour in under 6.5 seconds, which is hot hatch quick and smashes what JAECOO claims. And that's not even the car's party trick.
This is bizarre. It's actually playing the music through these speakers down here.
Because the E5, with its electric battery to power things, can play music through external speakers. And it can also keep the climate control running if you leave your dog in the car, with a message on the screen to let passers-by know that they're safe and comfortable.
Now, while I'm not going to be able to do the 248 miles that this car is claimed to be capable of, I can see on the computer ahead of me here that we're averaging between 3.9 and 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which, given that I'm doing this a lot of accelerating, a lot of coming off the power, that's pretty impressive actually. I think if you were to drive this car normally and with traffic, you would easily get over 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which means we've got about 244 miles of real world range in the car as it is here. But as I said, you could get much more than what I'm doing. So the claimed range, I think, is definitely achievable. And if you drive sensibly, and especially in town, I think you'd get comfortably more than 250 miles of range, which sort of makes up for the fact that this car isn't the quickest charging out there. It means you can probably get to your destination without having to stop.
And that efficiency sort of makes up for the fact that the car doesn't have paddles behind the wheel to let you adjust the one pedal driving strength on the fly. Instead, you have to dive into the menus. But do that, and the car puts energy back into the battery so much that it brings you almost to a complete stop, making driving in traffic much easier and more efficient.
So it's priced right, it's spacious, it comes packed full of standard equipment, and it drives nicely on the road as well. I think this JAECOO 5 is a really welcome new entrant to a class that so far has been dominated by the Ford Puma. I think these are going to sell very well, just like the bigger JAECOO 7. But you know what, if you're not sold on the JAECOO brand just yet, rest assured there are still loads of other very interesting cars in this class, and we've actually compiled some of our favourites into the video on screen here.